Welcome back to Yeti. It's episode 62. Haglund's -3 gives me a net -6 for the day. Not a good day in terms of draws, and definitely not a good day for the favorite, Haglund, for this race. It's the last stage race of the season, and we're definitely in sad shape on just how big the negative penalty is there. Haglund finishes just 52 seconds down, with two teammates also at 53 seconds down. Ida Schelling takes the stage. The biggest race that was left on the calendar was Il Lombardia. There is one other in China where somebody could farm a decent amount of points, so we're definitely not done. We're not in the clear, but Il Lombardia was the biggest opportunity left, and it's Remco Evenepoel who has claimed the win. It's also big to Team Samrook. Kazina, Stephen Williams grabs 5th overall. That's a big score for them. They also grabbed 12th, so I'm going to have to watch out to see what their points are like. That's going to be a pretty good haul. Outside of that, though, you drop down to James Shaw at 18th. Arkea Bentol at 20th is not going to be a big haul of points, though. So 3 Samrook riders, though. Is that a threat? And so far the answer is no. The rankings aren't updated. Even though the race just took place a day ago, it's too soon. The rankings haven't been updated. But Samrook, 1,200 behind. You know, that's a pretty freaking good haul of points that they're going to have from that race. But I would imagine it's still going to be under 1K. Probably. They'll have closed that gap a little bit, though. So there's still threats looming in this final week of the season. Right now, Arkea is ahead of us by 400 points. They did not score well there. I did have some national championships, 4 days of racing, and we got really good hauls for all 4 days of the racing. Not maximum points, but we're talking about out of a possible 500, more than 400, and actually some bonus points on top of that because we swept. We had 6 riders in a race, and 4 of them were mine for 2 of those days worth of racing. So actually, we're probably more than the 500 points. I still need these other little bit of points, but that will help with a cushion. Can we beat Arkea for number 1? I don't know, but can we hold off Caja Rural, Intermarché, and Samrook? Well, Samrook, fortunately, was the furthest behind of the group. That's going to boost them up, and I think they should still be behind us so far, but season's not done. A -2 on race day condition net as a team is enough to be considered neutral, close enough. The good news is, while only 2 guys are in green, one is our leader in Haglund. It's a +1. It's not a great race day condition, but it's a hell of a lot better than what he had on stage number 1 in that prologue. But stages 2 and 3 were sprint profiles, and I did not bring any sprinters to this race. So this is the final stage, stage 4, Taihu Lake, final stage race of the year. After this, Japan Cup. We have 2 days of racing left. In fact, we have 22K and 1 day of racing left on our season. The literal last opportunities to grab those points, and I'll get one update on the rankings in between this stage and that last one. We finished this one with 15K of climbing. It's not steep, but it's 15K of climbing. And we've got a pretty weak field here. Haglund's going to have a real shot at this, but of course everybody else is carrying those bonuses. And I've got a lot of guys that are at that 88% fitness. 0 fatigue in this field. No big negatives being carried, but Abdullah and Zipanati are definitely going to be on the weaker side. 17K to go now. We're coming up on the base of the climb, and I want to make the climb kind of tough for the field to really give us a chance. The later you wait to get going on the climb, the easier it is early on. It's not going to do damage to the field, and theoretically, with the depth that I have, you want it to be harder. So as we hit the base of the climb, 14.7K, 900 meters of climbing, 5.2% overall, and you can see it's pretty steep at the end. So I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to delay. on trying to set this up. In fact, we're going to go ahead and make sure we're holding position here. We don't want to come from behind. But we'll get to that 85, and you could already see that, yeah, even at an 85, we're struggling to hold position. So let's get the gels in these first two guys, and we are going to take over sooner rather than later. But I'm loving the tempo that's being set at the front right now, because it means I don't have to go into the sprint train in the early fashion. Now we've recovered position. Their pace is definitely not what it was. We're already down to 101 riders. This is the first phase of the climb behind us. The middle phase is definitely not as steep, and we're back to blinking red. So they've gone to their next rider and they're pushing on, which is what I'm looking for. I don't have to ride if they're doing the ride for me. They're creating that scenario that I want. There's some damage in the riders, Hagland included, Derek G included. And, you know, there's some fatigue out here, but they're putting the field under pressure. For me, it's important to climb at tempo, mountain rating being our strong suit, medium mountain actually for some of these guys, so it is possible to go a little bit harder. But with 6K to go, tempo's lifted, I think, for the most part. It's time. It's time. 6K out, we're going to take control. So Abdullah at 99, Zipinati will follow him. Panamar, Ortez, G. All right, here we go. Abdullah coming forward. Good timing because, look, Corbin Strong, Gonzalez, they've also decided it's time to make their move. 5K out. Abdullah doesn't have any red bar, and this is a big attack in response, and Abdullah is doing just fine, but we're going to have to get on to Panamar. Gels, 4.3K. Okay, 99 for Panamar. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. 2 riders away. 3.7K out. And we're looking pretty dang good for a strong result here. Zipinati is going to have to drop out of this thing in just a second. We're going to go straight to Montez at 2.5K. And then we're going to set him, I don't know, 88. 2.5K out. 3 riders. 3 riders off the front now. It was 2. Who joined him? Gonzalez, Bystrom, Strong's getting dropped. 1.5K out. Time to push much harder now. Montez. That's 1K. I'm coming in way too late here. G. Hagland. I waited too late. I waited too late. Those top 2 guys, but I'm looking really good for a 3-4-5 on this one. Gonzalez, Bystrom, hang on. I messed that up, but G, Hagland, Montez, and big splits in the field. It's going to be worth a lot of points. A little disappointed, though. I probably should have won this thing. I didn't push hard enough. I saw that other team pushing, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're doing me a favor. And I let them do that favor longer than I should have. I waited a little too long to come in at 6K. And then I also waited too long to ride the coattails of Domestiques. By the time I push on at, 3K or so, it was too late. It was too late. So definitely a mistake of a ride. By the way, I apologize for missing a couple episodes over the last couple of weeks. I've been very, very sick with the sinus infection. I am not better yet. That's not an excuse for this one. Like, my head's clear, at least now. I'm not over it yet, but my head's clear. That was just straight up a mistake. 21 seconds down on those 2. Oh, come on. Same time all the way down to 32nd. Derek G gains 4 seconds. That's it. That puts us 18th, 19th, and 20th. What a disappointment. The field is spread. There was a huge gap behind my 3 guys. There was one rider who got anywhere near. Grossschartner was the only one that was anywhere near Montez. Reindering was 4 or 5 bike lengths down. Govakar, Ida Schelling, those guys were 40 seconds, 45 seconds behind. They were almost as far behind as Gonzalez and Bystrom were ahead. And there certainly were gaps galore. Incredibly disappointing time gaps. Completely undeserved result there. keeps a lot of other guys in it, and so we only cracked the top 20 is all. Those three were all very close to each other from that time trial, 1 second apart, and then you have the 4 seconds that Derek G gained, just bumped him ahead of Hagland and nobody else. And yeah, to see them not lose time, to see 30 riders not lose time, put us very much towards the tail end of that. I mean, we moved up 20 spots, sure. We'll get some points, sure. And we got a decent amount of points for a 3-4-5 on the stage, sure. Overall, though, nowhere near the points haul we should have gotten. Luckily, we had those 4 national championship days, but that hurt that result a bit, and I think we still might need points in the last race. Final few days of the season now, so it really is that crunch time. Top 10 are World Tour teams, but what is going on below it? It is still Arkea ahead of us. They do pick up some points, and we certainly picked up some. I'm at 8,050. Why does that feel like that didn't go up? Weren't we at 8,000 already? Or were they at 8,000? That was 400 behind. Regardless, I'm 500 behind now, so 16th. But Samruk makes a huge jump. They picked up, they were at 68, so they picked up 600 points. Great haul. They jumped Caja Rural and Intermarché. So there are 3 teams. There are 3 teams that realistically still have a chance. We just saw a 600-point event from Samruk, and there's a 600-point gap. We could still slip out of that top 2 with Tour of Guangxi, which is 2 stages in. And I'm curious what's happened in the first 2 stages. So stage 1 goes to Cluj. We're only worried about 3 teams in particular right now, and none of them pick up points in the first stage. The results for stage 2 haven't come in yet, so it's actually only 1 stage in. I've got about 5 days till Japan. Let's see what happens with Guangxi. And the last big haul of points that remains available to riders. Day 1 went the way we needed to. Well, good news, folks. Before we go over the results for Tour of Guangxi, and I have not looked at that yet, besides that first stage, Aiden Shaw leveled up this week, and we have our replacement for Zhu. We were losing the direct pace that he had, and now we've replaced it. We're down a sprinter. We're signing new sprinters. We'll have some lead out guys. I think we'll be in the same state next year than that we were this year. I don't have a 1-2 punch though, right? So we're kind of dropping off just a little bit, but our sprint's not going to take a catastrophic drop. Again, reminder, Zhu not re-signed. He was asking way too much. We didn't have the finances for it. We ended up not even agreeing to terms, let alone me going, yes, I'll pay that. We didn't have it. And so he's gone. But Aiden Shaw, with a 78 sprint, 79 acceleration, with okay stamina, okay flat, he's a tiny bit better climber, tiny bit better flat rating. Like, he's a little bit better in almost every way than Shu, but he's very much a similar rider at that 4.5 stars, and has actually bounced ahead of him. He was 4th on our list. He's now 2nd, but of course for the next season, he was 3rd anyway. It actually brought our index up by a couple spots. We're not far off from World Tour. Really not far. Just a handful of spots. So pick it up with stage number 2 of the Tour of Guangxi, the final World Tour race of the year. Even though it's only World Tour C, there's still a good haul of points available. And none of our enemy teams have picked up anything on stage 2 or 3, 4. Hagens Berman in 8th, but not a threat. Or stage 5. Stage 6 is still to happen, but we're looking at no one in a GC position. They're not going to compete for the points jersey. Mountain Intermarché looks poised to win the KOM, though, so they are going to pick up a little bit of points for that. However, at like 600, they're not going to pick up 600 for a World Tour C KOM. Right? Maybe we need to check that. Under 25s, not threatening. So just that KOM for Intermarché. GC, 300 points for the winner. 6 points for provisionally leading. Stage results, top 10. There doesn't appear to be any points for winning the King of the Mountains, so we're doubly safe. And with just 1 day left, as I go to do my final day of racing on that same day, there doesn't seem to be anything that could challenge. There were a handful of point 1, point 2 races that were lengthy ones that had some opportunity to score points, but it's not like you're going to get 600 points. You win it, you dominate it, you're still only going to come away with 200, 300 tops. So it's the final race of the season, and mathematically, it feels, finally, on this final day, I feel like we're safe. But mathematically, I don't think that's a guarantee just yet. It just feels likely that we are safe. So, not a big collective sigh of relief just yet, but kind of a, okay, yeah, like stage 4 Taihu Lake, incredibly disappointing, not for not getting the win. I mean, that was disappointing. That came down to a mistake, but we ultimately sweep the next 3 positions with significant gaps spread out after a 15K climb. Like, it was spread out. Those gaps should have been given probably 10 gaps in that group from 3rd to 32nd, not 0 gaps in that group. At least 3 gaps, at least 4 gaps. Like, should have been 10. So that was the disappointing part. It was not so much that we didn't get the win. That hurt by a couple, that dropped a couple points off of what we could have scored there. But anyway, we're over 8,000 points. And from the first 5 stages at Tour Guangxi, and no points going to anybody else in Intermarché, the only one who did anything effective and it not actually amounting to anything useful, means that we could and should be, in that scenario of it's job done. But we're still going to take this final 80K. All 6 of these riders didn't land their fitness peaks, but all 6 of them have an objective for this race. All 6 of them have no fatigue. We've come in well prepared for this one. We were expecting +1s for every rider since none of them hit the fitness peak. And instead, we've drawn a -1 net compared to the, -1 compared to the +6 net that was expected. It's -7 draw for the team. Not great, but our best guy, Haglund, does have a +4. Zippinati in support does have a +2. Falls off after that, and we've got 60K to go, and they're really starting to speed up. We've already split the field, 61 chasing 5, and we're going to do 2 things here. One, Panamar, as far back as you are, go ahead and go get water right now. And 2, let's push this up to about an 83 for now, as we need to hold that position. I mean, look how far back we are already. The front 5 are a minute 15 ahead, so it should be an easy chase, especially with the kind of tempo that's being set, that's seeing riders with, a 78 effort, and all my best climbers slipping backwards. Zippinati. Okay, an 83 is enough to hold ish. It's not blinking red, yet he's suddenly at the back of the group. But we're going to crest that one. We're now looking at 4 more complete loops, and then the finish is only slightly up the hill. There are 2 different circuits for the Japan Cup. The other one is one of my favorite races on the calendar. This one, it's a nice race. It's not quite as fun, but there is that finish line, and you can see how you only just begin that climb, but it's still a climb. So it's definitely not a sprinter day, and clearly from the pace and the effort required just to stay in this thing with still 40K left, it's quite clear that it's already time to start stepping it up even further. We'll set an 86 now. get into that medium mountain just a hair to hold on. Domestiques, Abdullah, Montez will go ahead and gel now as we go to hit the next one. 33k left. And the front group still out there. The first rider just now reeled in. They're down to a half minute and high tempo. EF and Lytle Trek pushing pretty hard here as we climb. Abdullah and Montez are struggling. Panamar is going to be that next one, but we're going to get through this. Breakaway is caught. Just 53 left in contention. And we want to spam points, right? So this is not just about going for the win, though we will go for the win. At 25k, you could expect there to be some punchers that try to break away. Classic style riders. Panamar, Gel. Everybody's still here. Okay, here it comes. The accelerations begin. Down to the final 50 in contention. This is definitely a push to attack. We will be in a sprint train by the next climb. At this one, I want to save, conserve, hold on. That's my 3 domestiques all about to get dropped. And you can just see the intensity of what's just occurred because the 50 just dropped to 33 and there are more riders struggling to keep up. That back group just hung on though. So 32 remain in contention now. And I'm down to 3 riders. All 3 fresh, looking good. Derek G though, with those negatives, is going to have to work in support of Hagland. 26 riders left in contention. Definitely well placed for a good result. Remember, this next climb is the last full time up the hill. The finish is really just a short punchy, so you need just 2 riders left as we crest. We can burn through G on this climb and sprint train it. 12k to go. 12k. Coming up on that base, and it's time. Benatti will follow. G at the back. Here we go. There's the first big acceleration. Thibaut Nice on the attack. And we crest. And I still have that third rider, 8k. Benatti getting his gel ready. And now Hagland. So G leading it out. I've got 3 guys. It's about punchiness, not about sprint. For a second I was looking to set up the sprint. So we've got 17 left in contention. Nice could win this, but not necessarily. No, he's coming back pretty quickly here. And G just pushes on at 99. We're going to soft sprint it. It's not going to let me soft sprint with him. 2.6, Zippinati. Zippinati sprinting. And Hagland. Come on, Hagland. He's going to run out before the finish. He's going to get a good finish. It's going to be 4th. Barati, Tadome, De Bruyne, Hagland. But Zippinati is also going to score a top 8. And Derek G is going to score, what, 13th? So 3 guys in the top 13. That's a lot of points. That's a lot of points. That's a good haul on this final race. Just missing the podium. That's going to be a pretty good haul. And I think with the combination of the good haul here for the Japan Cup race, along with the lack of other teams stepping up, that's got to be it, right? That's got to be us safely in 2nd place for Continental Pro, which has been the goal all season. I did not want to do all those races, right? That was not my objective. I didn't want to be there for it. However, it's very clear the mechanic for the game. We are a team without a reputation. If we don't get an automatic bid, if we don't secure one of those top 2 spots, we will have the same World Tour calendar next year that we had this year, aka 4 races, 5 races on the whole of the year. It would be the same thing. Just because we had a good year, just because we improved, does not change our reputation. We would still lack that reputation. So we would not get those World Tour races, and it would be the same thing again. possible, yes, to get a snowball win here or there, but with a very limited calendar. And we would be on repeat, because if I don't do the same thing next year that I did this year, it would still be the same scenario in the following year, unless we finally qualify for a World Tour, in which case we would actually get the World Tour calendar. Now, with a team that's still short of World Tour quality, next season we will have a World Tour calendar, or at least most of it, right? We're only second. If they only give me all the classics, then I'll take all the classics. There's a ton of points in there. Next year, I will not have to race all these pro races as we did this year. I won't have to put in bids for them, and I won't have to race day by day by day. We can quick sim them and take what points we get, because the haul from the World Tour races, from my history with the game anyway, barring a total anomaly, I will secure enough points easily. I'll have a lot more than 8,000 next year with less days raced, because the haul will be better in those World Tour races, and because we'll have a fairly full, if not completely full, World Tour calendar. Simply having a bigger haul will make it so much easier to secure that top 2, and we should easily be number 1 in Continental Pro next year, and should crack the top 10 really in the overall rankings, where we were in the teens this year. So final rankings for the year: Derek G was 34th individually, just shy of 2,000 points. Pickrell was 54th. Haglund was 77th with just over 1,000 for a level 1 Liechtenstein. That should be enough to bring that up to level 2. Ukraine 153. Zhu was in the top 100. That might be enough to boost them. He's not going to show up here anymore, as I've just transitioned to November, and we'll have the new roster here. But UAE has won the overall rankings for the year. Lionel Trek was just behind, just over 1,000 points down. Visma, Sudal, Ineos were your top 5. Top 10, we already know who they are and what happened there. And yes, it's Arkea confirmation, gets 15th. We were just 355 points behind. 355 behind Arkea for top Continental Pro team. But we do take second. Samruk ends up 750 behind. So we actually had a good final race there, and it extended the gap instead of seeing it close any further in that last week. Samruk did a hell of a job in Lombardia, though, so we feared the possibility of a team doing really well there. Had it been Caja Rural or Alpecin-Deceuninck, there's your new rankings. Alpecin-Deceuninck drops down. If it had been Intermarché, it wouldn't have mattered. Intermarché would be World Tour. These are those new Continental Pro rankings, right? So if it had been Caja Rural, who had secured that, 600 points? It would have been a very, very close finish, and we would have only just won. And if I didn't get the couple hundred points at the Japan Cup, as we were on 8,000, right? Had I not picked up 200 points there, Caja Rural had picked up 600, right? We would have both been on 8,000 with a very, very, very close finish. Every point did matter this season until literally the final day of the season. We were secure by the final day of the season. But even then, right, it was just barely clinched it. It was really close. We got lucky that it was Samruk who made that big push at Il Lombardia and not one of those others just behind us. But it will be a top 2 finish. So it is confirmed. We did do it, not comfortably at all. It came down to the wire, and I absolutely needed those last little bits of points. We had those couple races very, very late in the season that were a mess, that did not go well, that the race day condition was not there. But ultimately, out of those, we secured maybe 300 points. And certainly when you add Japan Cup, we secured 200. Without that last little bit, without those last 2 pushes, right? Subtract 500 from our total, and we're at 77. Samruk is, 200 points behind that. 250 behind. I did need to do those last couple of races. It was required, and we had to make the push all the way through. It was not comfortable at all. But we did it. We did it. Now we have a World Tour calendar guaranteed, and really from here, every season should comfortably be number 1 amongst Continental Pro until we secure that top spot. Zhu had 1,029 points this season, by the way, as he was just 13 points behind Hagland for the tops of the team. But our 4 leaders were quite clear. And we're looking at Aiden Shaw replacing Zhu. So he should come up by a good 800 points in the next year. One of the only problems we have here is a lot of our top guys are Canadian, and they already have a good rating, so it's going to be hard to boost that one. But some of these other nations could and should get a boost out of this. Ultimately, a successful season, right? We did what we set out to do, and we managed to snowball a little bit along the way as well. What was it, 3 times, 4 times we snowballed? Bonus, because I didn't expect to snowball this season. But we secured a top position in Continental Pro to obtain a World Tour calendar. So mission accomplished. That's going to do it for this episode and this season. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.